If you're a surgeon who's sick of starting and stopping fitness and nutrition programs that don't account for your schedule, I built this for you. This is episode 3 of the Surgeon Vitality Lab, and I'm breaking down exactly what happens after you book a call with me, how we create your personalized plan, and what it looks like going forward with support that actually fits your lifestyle. But before we dive into that, and I've highlighted this before, but let's retouch on why most programs fail surgeons. And the main thing is it just does not, most plans, most coaches don't know how to tailor things based on what a surgeon's lifestyle is like. It's not normal, right? How many people do you know that are standing there that have to be hyper focused on one specific task for 8 hours in a row, right? Not many. Not to mention with somebody's on the table with their life on the line. Their life is in your hands, right? That's a very high demand placed on one individual, and the vast majority of the people will never understand what that's like. But that's just taking it, for what it is. Like, we're looking at surgery as a whole, like just in general, like what it entails. But then we look at the specifics of what a typical day looks like for a surgeon. How long are you in the OR? That depends on the day. Are you in clinic? Are you on call? But these plans aren't adaptable and built for your lifestyle. You got, second thing, looking at the scheduling of workouts and the meal strategies that are coached up and implemented. So I've had, through a number of different consults I've done, where complaints come in from things that these surgeons have done in the past that they didn't like. And many of you do not try to do this on your own. You hire professional help. But oftentimes they're giving you strategies of eating every few hours because that's going to help keep your metabolism high, which is crap. But that's besides the point. Even if it was true, eating every few hours is not doable for you when you're operating all day, okay? Or giving you 90-minute sessions to do on your own, even though it might be laid out and you know what to do, you don't have 90 minutes to fit that into your schedule, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever it is. So they give these very unrealistic plans for you to follow, and then you get frustrated because you're not able to consistently execute them. And then some of you, unfortunately, will start blaming yourselves as to why you can't do it, when in reality is you just don't have a plan that is tailored to you. And that's really what you need. And the other thing that fails surgeons is this goes one of 2 ways: either an overall lack of support, which actually I would say is less frequent than what I see on the other side of it. And the other side of it is too much support. And what I mean by that is they're setting it up as part of these programs where it's like, we're doing weekly 30-minute coaching calls. We're going to be doing chats every single day. Like, you don't need that. You just need a plan that works for you. And that's not to say that I don't have frequent touch with my clients. In fact, it varies on the client. At bare minimum, I'm going to know what you're doing on a daily basis. And then I do have clients that I do have weekly calls with. It's not a lot, because it's not necessary for the majority of people, or it's not necessary for the length of time that we spend together. It might only be necessary for a specific amount of time where you hit a roadblock, right? But the lack of consideration and understanding for your schedule and all the demand that comes with it, because it's not just your life in the OR, it's your life outside of it. And you obviously love your families and you want to be present. That's why you're doing this, like, to have more energy, to be more present with your families, to set a good example for your kids, right? To bond with your spouse, to be closer to your spouse. These are all very admirable, respectable things. And part of this is why I love working with surgeons so much, is because my personal values tend to be right on par with the surgeons that I work with. It's family. For me, it's my career. It's your career. And, I've got a business side to it. Some of you will have private practice you run. And then my family. And so, I'm sorry, I said family, business. And finally, my health and fitness. And that's the part where I've succeeded with myself, obviously, and where I'm here to help you navigate your health and fitness so that you can be successful, but do it in a manner that's specific to you and your life. Because even from surgeon to surgeon, it's going to be a little bit variable, right? I'm not going to do the same thing for every surgeon. There's going to be a general plan, and that general plan is going to be modified based on who I'm working with. And we'll get into that in a second. But this is a good transition to why the first thing I do before we even talk about working together is just have a conversation. And that starts with the discovery call. So this discovery call can go anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. But what we're going to touch on is we're going to discuss lifestyle, pain points, your goals, call schedule, travel, barriers that you're encountering right now. We're going to talk about what you've done in the past as far as what hasn't worked, what you've done in the past, what you did have success with, and where you work out. Some people are at a gym, some people are at home, some people are a combination of both. Some people have a gym at the hospital that they work at. I get all that information so that I can create an outline, a custom blueprint for you to understand if it makes sense for us to work together. And I get an understanding of having this conversation if we're going to be a good fit, because not everybody is going to be the right fit for me. For example, if you're somebody that is looking for somebody just to write workouts and you're going to kind of dictate what's what and what goes on, then I'm not going to be the good fit for you. But if you're coachable and you're open to doing things differently than you've done in the past, and we're looking at this as a partnership, and I'm leading the way, I'm giving you mentorship, I'm giving you coaching that's going to help you get to where you want to be, then this is going to work really well. Okay. But overall, this is not a sales pitch. I want to know how your career, your body, daily routine are connected, so we don't waste time guessing. Because I don't want to sit here, present something to you that is generic and meaningless and has no substance to it, when I could actually sit down instead and listen to you and come up with something that's tailored for you, and then we can have a real conversation. Okay. Now, building out, once we decide, let's say build out that plan, that custom blueprint, you're like, yeah, Mike, let's go. We're moving forward. Awesome. So then the next part is the assessment. Okay. The assessment, that's going to be roughly an hour, and there's going to be some paperwork I'm going to have you fill out before we meet up. That'll give me a lot more details and information that'll expand basically on that initial call that we had. But this is going to allow me to come up with a game plan for the assessment, because there's going to be multiple parts to the assessment. The first part is going to be the movement portion. The movement portion, I'm going to have some basic movements that I'm going to have you do that can give me insight on where you're limited with, everything from gross movement. So like a squat, for example, to being able to take that squat and identify individual joints and areas that could, potentially, if they are not already, because most of the surgeons I work with, they do have, chronic aches and pains that they're dealing with, if they've had injuries in the past that, still plague them a little bit to this day. That gives me insight on which individual joints may be contributing to those aches and pains. And then what I do based on what I see with the movement portion of the assessment, there may be additional tests that I do in addition to that to see, corrective exercise is a big buzzword in my industry, right? I'm not a huge fan of that word, but if you want to think of it as like a corrective exercise, I call it just an intervention. We're taking an exercise, we're seeing if we get any desirable changes. And if we do, that becomes a part of the warm up, that might become a part of the program, right? And for example, I had orthopedic surgeon, ACL, MCL tear a few years back, still has some residual knee pain as a result. Saw something during his squat that gave me a cue in that he was limited with hip internal rotation and the ability to pronate his midfoot during his squat. Had him do an exercise. When he did his squat initially, he had pain with it. When we did that exercise, we retested, no pain. Okay, we're good. Like, that's going to be a part of your routine. And since then, there's been no complaints, and he's back to running. Okay, which is something he loves to do. All right. So that'll cover the movement portion. Then we're going to dive into the nutrition side of things, right? I like you value precision in the OR. I value precision with your nutrition. So it's like the best thing that we can do is figure out where you need to be from a caloric intake standpoint to reach your goals, and make sure the protein intake is adequate. And then we track that. Now, that may not be the right solution for you. That's not something I have everybody do. That may sound extremely overwhelming and a little bit too much on your plate. That doesn't mean that we can't do other things to help you make progress. progress could potentially be a little slower, but that does not mean we can't make it. So what we might do instead, I'll give you an example of a surgeon I was working with, and weight loss was a goal. Tracking, no way. He's overloaded at the moment, just got a lot going on, a lot of travel. So we focused on habits. And the habit we chose to work on after getting all the information and seeing what he's doing from a nutrition standpoint is we looked at alcohol intake. And there was daily consumption of 2 alcoholic beverages at night, and then weekend consumption in a social environment. And so what we did is we focused on cutting out the weekly consumption, got an idea of where he was at and what he was ready for, said, can you cut it down to 1 drink? Okay, yeah, I can do that. What about just get rid of it altogether? And we just focus on keeping it on the weekends. And, he went outside, thought about it. Yeah, I think I could do that. And I said, well, think you can do that. I want to know that you can do that. So are you confident that you can do that? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your confidence level that you can do that? And he said he was at about 7 out of 10. Now, normally I would say be at least at an 8 out of 10, but what we decided to do is we decided to give it a shot for a couple weeks and see how successful he was with that. He only had 1 night out of those 2 weeks where he was not successful with doing it. And it was the first night after our conversation, after his assessment. So we decided, okay, this is what we're doing moving forward. He did that, and then he focused on getting more protein in for breakfast and lunch, which lunch just basically mean, he was eating a couple protein bars. And that yes, 2 protein bars, not ideal, but he was inconsistent with consuming lunch. He had to have something that was quick and convenient. That's what we decided to go with. It got him his protein intake, or helped him meet his protein goals for the day. And then with breakfast, he was already doing a shake smoothie that he would make in the morning. So we focused on putting a little bit more protein in that. And then that's what we did from a nutrition standpoint. After 5 weeks, he was already down 9 pounds. So just making simple changes sometimes like that with your habits can make all the difference. But that's what we're doing from a nutrition standpoint. And we start looking at the dynamics of the family. We start looking at the dynamics of work. I want to know if people bringing in, food to work, and that's something that you're struggling with. Like when you're stressed out, you're grabbing for, a quick fix just because it's available. Somebody brought donuts in, or a device rep brought lunch in from Jimmy John's, and you're just grabbing the sandwich because it's there. Is it something where you get home after a long day and you're grabbing the stuff that's in the cupboard that's for your kids' snacks, and you're binging on those, right? Looking at the environment and seeing what we can do to manipulate the environment to enhance their level of preparedness so that they can be in a position to execute without having to think about it so much. We want to minimize cognitive load and set the environment so that they can make the desirable change. Okay. So that basically, after that assessment, I go ahead, I build out the program, we start implementing right away. Okay. So now in week 1, that's what you're gonna have the assessment, so we can really get even more dialed in, build out the plan. I have my clients do daily check-ins. It doesn't take any longer than 60 seconds. I respect your time. I know it's valuable, and I know you don't have a lot of it, and you don't want to be spending a ton of time. However, the daily check-ins take less than 60 seconds, and they're usually 2 to 3 questions. It'll depend on the person that I'm working with. Most people are trying to lose weight or improve their body composition. So the first question will be like, what did you weigh in at this morning? Weigh yourself nude first thing in the morning so we can keep the conditions consistent so that we can get the most accurate information. Okay. Then, so the daily check-ins, you'll have a weekly check-in. That'll be a little bit more extensive, take maybe 5 minutes on Sunday. Okay. Most clients were doing weekly updated progress photos. Okay. Then after that, the details within the program vary from client to client. So some clients are doing 2 resistance workouts a week and a cardio session. On the high side of it, I got one client doing 4 resistance training sessions, 2 core mobility days, and then 1 cardio day where he goes for a really long run. But these workouts are built to fit their lifestyles. The example of the surgeon that's working out 7 days a week, none of his workouts take longer than 45 minutes, and some take as little as 20. Okay. It allows him to have the frequency, have the consistency, and build that over time so that he can get the results that he's looking for. Okay. Um, Trying to think of anything else worth mentioning there from a week, like early on, first week. We're communicating. We got chat, so I do have a chat feature within my app. You also have direct access to my cell phone, my personal cell phone. So my rule of thumb is if it's something that's time sensitive, I consider that anything that's inside 12 hours, you can text me so that you get a quicker response. If it's anything that's not time sensitive, then you go ahead and put it in the app, and I will get back to you like within 24 hours. Okay. So we have frequent check-ins there. You have the ability to record yourself doing videos of certain work or lifts and exercises. If you don't feel that you're doing them correctly, you want feedback, you record those, send them back to me. Okay, I give you feedback on those. So there's all these opportunities to connect and communicate, and that really is all I expect is just honest communication. And I'm going to give you my best. You give me your best, and there's no doubt that you're going to win. Now, there's adjustments that need to be made to the program, right? So if somebody's traveling, somebody's on call, you're communicating with me, let me know like what your obstacles are for this upcoming week, and we're making adjustments with your training plan. It might be you're traveling and access to food, wherever you're staying. I've had people stay in very rural areas and not have the same access to things, so then we have to game plan a little bit differently for those times. Okay. I'm giving you real time feedback via text, video, voice. I'm making sure that I'm watching at bare minimum. Like I said, on a daily basis, I check all the daily check in forms so I know what's going on. And then if I see that I need to reach out, I make sure I do. Or I might just shoot a word of praise or encouragement based on some progress that's being made. There's a lot of different ways that we communicate and make sure that this is ongoing without requiring a lot of your time. Okay. Then, as I said, we do calls. Those are optional. Those are when you need those calls, right? I want to make sure that I'm not demanding too much of your time because you're already getting more of your time taken with trying to implement what we're working on. It makes no sense to overload you. I don't want to create more overload. That's the only form of overload I want to create is physically from your workout program so that your body's adapting the way that we want it to. And then nutritionally in the sense of like we're actually again, most people are trying to lose weight or improve body composition. So we're going to create the overload by creating a consistent caloric deficit somehow so that we can see those adaptations that we're looking to see, decrease body fat and increase in muscle hypertrophy, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But when a case runs long, your sleep tanks, terrible night of sleep, motivation dips, whatever it is, I'm here to help with adjustments so that you don't derail your progress. Because there's not one way to do this. The biggest thing, honestly, consistency over time gets you the results that you want. I've said that time and time again. That's the bottom line, right? So we've got to figure out how can we keep you consistent for the long haul. All right. Now here's some example of surgeons that are getting results that I've worked with. I just talked about the NT. I'm probably harping him too much, but it's pretty proud of him. It's pretty amazing what he's done. Down 77 pounds over the last 19 months. Okay. Got a cardiothoracic surgeon, best shape of his life in his late 50s with zero low back pain. When he started working with me, that was one of his complaints. Low back pain during surgery was worse after surgery, had the long residual, made it hard to recover from operations. As a result, not only having less back pain, now his energy levels are higher than they've ever been. And then I have an orthopedic surgeon, early 50s, halfway to her body comp goals already after only working together for just under 2 months. And she's winning dance competitions around the world, not letting the arthritis in her knee be a limiting factor because we're making sure that we're addressing all that stuff for her so that she can be feeling and performing at her best. Okay. So if you're looking for a cookie cutter app, or you want to, like I said earlier, if you want to do it your way and just kind of have a workout built out for you and you just follow it and don't really regard the details of the program, you don't want the accountability, this isn't for you. But if you're ready for a program that meets you where you're at, is ready to hold you to the standard of elite that you've set for yourself inside the OR, and you want to be able to bring that floor up in your personal life so that you're looking, feeling, and performing outside of the OR at an elite level, I've got you. So this sounds like what you've been needing. Click the link below to book your free discovery call. We'll build your custom plan. You can determine, hey, this is for me or this is not for me. If it is for you, we move forward, get you set up for your assessment. If it's not for you, no hard feelings. You'll have an idea of what you need to do moving forward without burning out even more during the process. Okay. But the bottom line is you surgeons, you take care of everybody else at the highest level. It's time someone took care of you, and that's what I'm here to do: is be your partner, be your mentor, be your coach to help you through your process so that you can be looking, feeling, and performing at your best in and out of the OR, more present, more energy with your family, all the stuff that matters and is meaningful to you. So thanks for being a part of episode 3, the Surgeon Vitality Lab. And I'll see you next time for episode 4.